All right, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Explain Like I'm Five, the show where we get members of our community to explain things that they love, sort of like we're, about on my intelligence level, about that of a 5-year-old. With me today, I have the wonderful audio uncles, Uncle Mark and Uncle Doug from How-To Heretic. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing today?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
I'm relatively wonderful. I had a 5-shot peppermint mocha earlier. Got my ADHD meds. I am going today.
You're flying, and I'm sorry to everyone out there who's viewing this because a lot of people find knowing what Uncle Doug looks like is really disappointing.
It's the reality I face every morning.
Yeah. So just try to deal with the trauma of seeing what's behind that voice if you can.
Well, see, that's the beauty of having a YouTube channel is nobody has to worry about like, what does Susan look like? Gee, I wonder.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, everybody's.
Isn't it funny? Like, so I now that I've met so many of the other podcasters in the space, like in the kind of skeptical atheist space, I've just gotten used to being disappointed. I'm like, that's not what you're supposed to look like.
I guess you kind of assume you get used to a voice in your head, and so you paint a picture of a very good-looking, svelte, cutting figure, and then when you're confronted with the reality, it's always somewhat disappointing. So,
and then you meet Eli, and you're like, oh wow. No, Eli actually looks exactly what I thought he would look like.
He truly does.
The body matches the voice perfectly.
Yeah. Why do you think everybody's so in love with Heath Enright? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
they're thirsty for him in the Puzzle and the Thunderstorm group on Facebook.
Heath is he's kind of the wild card on the show. I like what he brings to it.
It doesn't hurt to be 9 feet tall, though. That helps.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Yeah. And then the scotch, he just talks about scotch and everyone's like, oh my God.
You can handle his scotch. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah. Right. I remember at the American Atheists Convention last year, because I was, working in check-in and stuff. And I remember y'all coming up. Yeah. And they were all like, there were a couple of people that were just all like, oh my God. And I didn't know what y'all looked like yet. Like I'd heard y'all.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Well, no, I was just, I don't really have any expectations for anything.
So we matched them. We matched your expectations.
I remember you because in that context, because we'd been doing the podcast for, I don't know, a year and change, and we hadn't really done anything in the public yet. And so we flew to Cincinnati and we walked up to the table and you're like, oh my God, the Audio Uncles. You were the first like fangirl experience I've ever had in my life. So that was pretty exciting.
I was very excited. I can't help it.
Nice.
It's how I roll. What's funny is I used to be on a podcast called Atheist Airwaves that actually, funnily enough, Don Ford, Voice of Fantasy and Adventure, used to listen to back when we were on, like, oh gosh, this was like 6 or 7 years ago that I was on it. And I think Don and I were like messaging on Facebook or something, and he's just all like, I used to listen to Atheist Airwaves on a regular basis, right? And I'm just like, wait, what?
That's like, so random. I was just DMing with him like 5 minutes ago. So.
Yeah, and he's in the chat. So
hey, Don.
Hi, Don.
Yeah, small world.
Yeah, he's really wonderful. We sort of had mutual like fangirling moments with that stuff. It's just like, oh my God, this is so cool. All right, so we don't get too distracted from what I intended the topic to be. Of course, today we are going to talk about cats.
Yay!
Which is fitting, considering I have one on my lap. I have them on my shirt. Doug, I didn't show you my shirt beforehand, but it's like a Star Wars and cats combination.
Oh, totally.
Wait. I thought we were. I misunderstood. I thought we were talking about the recent Smash Hollywood musical sensation. I'm all ready. I'm loaded up to talk about that.
And if we want to talk about how I only protested the movie because they did not put buttholes in it, then we can talk about that. Like, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but just thanks for tuning into Butthole Talk, everybody. This is going to be an exciting 4-hour multi-segmented show.
Did you finish that movie, Susan? Did you make it through?
No, I didn't. I actually refused to watch it because I did a couple of years of theater in high school, and Cats was one of the ones that I was a little obsessed with when I was in high school. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I saw the trailer and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm just not. I had enough trouble with the Rent movie. That one was.
So Doug, we were up at Doug's house and we said, okay, we just got to do this. We just got to, Doug and me and my husband were like, we got to get through Cat. We just got to watch this thing. And how far did we get, Doug?
Maybe 15 minutes.
Ooh. I don't think we made it. I felt like I was in a K-hole. I couldn't even fucking understand what was happening.
It was so nightmarish.
I didn't know jellicle was a word, and now it's like every other word in the fucking movie. So anyway, sorry, I'm swearing.
No.
Yeah.
You
have an issue with the buttholes. I have an issue with jellicles, whatever those are.
Yeah. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
So you were telling me about how y'all did a lot of like rescue and TNR stuff. Tell me, whichever, like either one of y'all, just go as you will. Tell me how y'all got into that.
Well, let me give a little background, maybe why kind of cats rate so highly in our lives and the lives that Doug and I have somehow managed to mislead this long. So we grew up if anybody doesn't know who we are, we grew up in Salt Lake City in a certain local orthodoxy. And we also grew up in a family of stark raving crazy people. And the orthodoxy didn't help. And it was a pretty violent and pretty unhappy and pretty weird, shitty hoarder kind of life that we had. And when I was 4 or 5, I put a saucer of milk out on the porch because I saw a little gray kitty out there, and she drank the milk. And my mom said, "Well, if you feed a cat, it's yours for life." And she was, and so that was Misty, and she was kind of my only affectionate, positive, companionship as a child. And then because we were hoarders somehow, and we were bad pet owners, we were just terrible people. And so we ended up with a lot of cats. And Doug did, I don't know if we ever spayed or neutered any cats when we were, we didn't do it. Obviously, we weren't that frontier, but we didn't have it done.
Didn't have the tools for them.
So. Oh, we had the tools, but we didn't do it. But so we just didn't know. And then, we kept having more and more cats. And weirdly, in all the kind of violence and dysfunction and cruelty that was our childhood, it was not cool to be mean to the cats, right, Doug? Like that was this weird.
No,
they were treated as well as we knew how.
We were bad pet owners in that, like, we weren't enlightened pet owners, but we were not cruel in any way, nor was that allowed. So it
was weird.
If there's one lesson that we can glean from that experience was, you got to be nice to animals. So that's not a bad lesson.
Yeah, the only time I remember seeing my ex-cop lunatic father cry was when one of the cats was killed, and it was the weirdest. It completely shook me to my core that my dad was crying, and I was also traumatized by losing Ginger. But so we have this enormous amount of affection for cats, and Doug at one point, at the height of his crazy cat ladiness, had 6, I think, Doug.
I had 5 permanent cats, and I, we'll explain how that happened. It was never my intention to end up a crazy cat lady. I don't think it's any person's intention.
Yeah,
it just kind of happens to you.
Yeah.
They just sort of they adopt you.
Truly.
And
and at the beginning of our modern catship, we had a party at my warehouse. So we used to live in this amazing. My husband and I in this abandoned, or not abandoned, but ex auto body shop that we turned into this kind of house in this weird neighborhood where there was no neighbors. There was like nobody lived there. We were just kind of in this industrial area. And we had a party there one night, and somebody found some kittens down the street trying to eat a Mexican food wrapper because they were so starving. And they brought them back to the house. And it had been a while since I had a cat. And I'm like, because my emotional attachment to cats is so intense. I was like, I can't have cats. I can't have cats. Tomorrow we're taking them to the Humane Society. And then the next day I was like, we're going to find them good homes. And then the next day I'm like, fuck, I've got cats. So we ended up with a family of 3 cats, a mama and 2 of her babies, and they just reminded me how amazing and wonderful that life, having that life around you and those little personalities. And unfortunately for us, they lived a long time. We've lost 2 of them in the past year and a half, and we're down to our last one, sweet old lady. But that moment started to kick off what came next, right, Doug?
Mm-hmm. So I ended up moving into this warehouse with Mark and Jesse. It was a big
My
warehouse.
internet stopped for a second there. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You still with us?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Is it Antifa? It's Antifa.
Okay.
They're cutting
I think
the lines.
it is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
They do not
we
tolerate
all
cat
know.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah, my own cat is sitting on my lap, and she's turning 14 in December. And it's like you sort of have to start coming to terms with their mortality a little bit ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, not ready. And now she's purring, and now I'm just like emotional. And anyway, we're moving on from
moving on.
Well, that's unfortunately that's where we're going to end up in the story, but we'll try and enjoy it until we get there. But so we were living together in this warehouse, and it turns out there were just feral cats everywhere.
We don't know why. There was no neighborhood. There were like no people. Maybe there was maybe people were dumping them. There's kind of a funky park, like 6 blocks or something from where it was, Doug, right?
Yeah.
And maybe people were dumping cats there, but we started putting food out for these strays, and then all of a sudden it just turned into, there was this huge colony of feral.
Yeah, dozens of cats would come and feed, and we're like, oh fuck, what do we do with this? And then every spring there would be kittens. And I think we went outside one day and there was a squished kitten, and we're like, okay, we got to do something about this. So we looked into the TNR program. We didn't know anything about it. And for those who don't know, it's trap, neuter, release, and it's the way to stabilize a feral colony. Because if you simply catch, or if you're a terrible person, kill cats in a colony, they will breed to fill that colony back up, and they'll overbreed. Yeah. So it actually is kind of like a starfish. It's counterproductive. If you pull cats from the colony can end up kind of exploding. So like, okay, so what you do is you trap them if they are fully feral, which means never been touched by a person. You neuter them, spay them, and we'll talk about that. I mean, we didn't do it personally, but
well, not after the first time. That was just a disaster. Yeah.
And then you release them, and it stabilizes the colony, and the colony kind of whittles itself down. So if they're stray or run away or something, you can rehabilitate them. Then you try and find a home for them so they don't go back into the system. So when we got into it, we leaned into it pretty hard, and we were catching 4 or 5 cats a week at one point.
Yeah, and as I was telling Susan before we started, this was right. If I'm correct, this was right after Bush won re-election, or technically won his first election.
I remember those dark days.
And we were so depressed, and the winter was just really shitty in where we were, and we just had this kind of chop wood, carry water mentality. It's like, okay, what can we just do? What's the closest thing at hand that we can fix? And it turned out it was a lot of cats. So that's what we did. We kind of went whole hog into this TNR, and
but the catching of the feral cats, you get a humane trap, a live trap, and they're the cat goes in, the door closes, and it's caught. And even a stray cat will panic, but a fully feral cat, if you ever had a fully feral cat in a cage, it's an unnerving experience, to say the least. And and the Humane Society wouldn't take the cages. You had to get them into a carrier. And I don't know if that policy's changed, but we had to, we had to get this insane Tasmanian devil out of a cage into a carrier.
There was some R&D.
Yeah, it took some, but then we got into it. We were kind of cycling through these cats. We had several cages out on our little patio that we'd put them in to rehabilitate for a few days after they came back from the Humane Society. Yeah. And if they were, many of them were strays. So after a minute or two, you can tell who's friendly and who's not.
Stray or abandoned, yeah.
Yeah, and so we managed to find homes for 30 plus, maybe 40 cats. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think we placed a lot of adults. There were some adults that were just clearly never going to let us get near them. But we probably caught 3 or 4 litters, Doug, right? Like 3 or 4 groups of kittens and managed to adopt. So Doug used to work at this big kind of local restaurant business with a lot of employees.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, if you worked there, it was kind of mandatory. You were getting a cat. And so there's a whole generation of people that worked at that restaurant that have, that are cat owners because of us. And
welcome to work. Here's your obligatory cat.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And Doug had a big board of like pictures of all the cats that cycled through. And I think we probably, by the end of it, it was between 50 and 70. I don't even remember.
Well, we had to literally CSI it because there were so many cats that we couldn't tell who we had caught and who we hadn't. And so we would take clandestine photos of them all, and we put a big board up with, all the cats in the colony, and like, they caught until we kind of got through it. And the colony stabilized. And then there were 5 of those cats that were cute and friendly, but nobody wanted. And those were the 5 that I ended up with.
No.
Yeah, I had this. The 3 cats we adopted were the most. They looked like we had bought them from some gay cat breeder in like Provincetown. Like they were the most floofy, white, like kind of stick their chests out when they walk. Just gorgeous, kind of show cats, and they were just alley cats. And then Doug ended up with like the island of misfit toys, like one that I called the Badger because she was like, 6 inches off the ground but 3 feet wide. She kind of looked like a little pizza moving around the place, and it was just. And then the one with like the kind of Lola with the broken tail and the short legs and the weird
Lola
teeth.
was the cutest because part of our process was we gave all those we took pictures of the cats. We gave them a name so we could refer to them. And that little white one we named Lola because we thought it was a girl, which as per the Kink song is pretty funny. But that poor thing, we'd feed all the cats, and they'd all frenzy. And there was one little white cat that would just sit across the street and wait and hope there was some food left. Aww. And it was just this little broken thing.
Yeah, and he never integrated into the colony for whatever reason. They never let him in.
And it turns out he was the luckiest cat on the face of the planet, because in any other world he would have been bones years and years ago, but he got to live a pretty good life. And so now we get to the unfortunate part of the story, like you were saying, Susan, is you're going to lose him. You outlive them.
Yeah, but we also did stuff like we built a winter shelter that was a pretty good sized in a good spot, and we managed to get electricity out to it so there could be like a little kind of weatherproof heating element in it. And funny enough, at the time I was working on a movie that had Anthony Hopkins in it, and the one and only amazing long conversation I had with Tony. I mean, colleagues.
Not a big deal. Yeah.
The one conversation I had, he's a cat fanatic. And I was telling him about this TNR program, and he was just thrilled. He just thought that was the greatest thing. He gives like crazy money to animal charities every year, and he was just delighted by that. So good for you. Keep it up. Keep it up. If you need support, let me know.
Aww.
Really, really sweet man. And anyway, so we built this winter shelter, and I think we hopefully extended and improved the lives of some of these poor things for at least a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I still have 2 of them, and one of them we named her Sweetie. I was kind of hoping she might make an appearance, but we'll see. It took me, I don't know what, Mark, 3 years before she'd let me touch her. And then
she was as wild. She was as wild, and we actually captured her litter. Mm-hmm. And she weighs like a pound, and she tried to kill me while we were capturing it. Like, I swear to God, she was going to kill me.
Yeah.
When we got her litter, and then she was just wild.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And just every once in a while, she'd let me touch her head, and then she let me pet her maybe months and months later. And then one day I left the door to my place open, and she kind of wandered in and then ran away and came in a little bit more the next night. And when she realized it was warm and soft and there was food, she was my cat. And
she moved in.
Yeah, she moved in, and she's the most adorable cat. And because I already had so many cats, I tried to give her away. And
to a totally nice person.
Oh, look, there's a kitty.
Yeah, there's a void kitty that's next to me who I did not realize was in this room.
Hi, kitty cat.
Yeah, this one's Abigail. She belongs to our roommates.
Cutie.
Abigail loves me, and does not like Nathaniel, and they have another cat named Bridie, who's a little brown tabby, so she looks a lot like my cat, and my cat's name is Gypsy Rose. Yeah, like the burlesque dancer, not the murder accomplice, of course. And Bridie and Gypsy Rose look exactly the same, but Gypsy Rose is distinctly pear-shaped. So it's like you can tell the difference, but when you just sort of glance, it's like, oh wait, which one are you again? Should I get you off? What do I do? Should I get you off the counter? I can't tell. Yeah, but
so yeah, Doug, you gave Sweetie away.
Yeah, I tried to give that cat. Well, I had so many cats, and she was lovely, but I gave her away more than once, and she ran away and found her way back to me. She crossed
Miles.
the city. I don't know how she did it. I'll never know.
She found her way back across downtown, like huge busy streets, boulevards. I don't know. And she did it twice. And I'm like, Doug, that's your cat. You're keeping this cat.
I came home and she was just sitting on my front stoop, just like, the fuck?
Yeah,
so I still have her. Yeah, and she likes to sleep on my chest, so it's not a bad thing.
Gypsy does the same thing. She'll sleep right there, if she's allowed. And I actually woke up at like 4:00 in the morning this morning, and she was just sort of like, "Hey, what's up? How's it going?" I'm like, "What are you? Oh, okay, hi." She's interesting. So I'm trying to think of what else I can ask, because I mean, other than just generally talking about cats in general, it's just like, I just love them so much. It seems like a little crazy, but so were there any that y'all were really able, that you had to take to the Humane Society, or did you, for the most part, find them homes directly?
I would say about 50-ish% were feral, fully feral. We had to re-release them into the, we got them spayed and neutered, and then let them recuperate for a couple days, and then let them back into the colony. And they, we would still see them around
for years. They were there for, some of them were, I lived there for 10 years. Doug, you lived there a little while after we were gone, and some of them probably lived past 10 or 12 years, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But we never took any to like the Humane Society to drop them off. Like, luckily the Humane Society, was the Humane Society or Best Friends, Doug? I can't remember. Somebody had a voucher program.
We did both, but
and they would, and you'd get like a huge discount on it. But when those ran out, we just kind of paid for it. And at one point, the vets from our favorite vet place in Salt Lake City, I'm going to give them a plug, University Pet Clinic. They're amazing. Remember all the doctors came out from the back to shake our hands. Like everybody wanted to meet you guys because of the program you're doing. And they started just giving us discounts as well. Yeah. Because we were it was a volume business at one point, like 5 a week sometimes.
Customer discount, right?
Yeah. So it's like, it's how advocacy goes, right? You kind of don't know what you're getting into necessarily when you start down a road like that. And before you know it, you're like, wow, we are either the Florence Nightingale or the, Dr. Mangala of the cat world. That's up to the cats to decide,
There's no in between, right?
What they went to sleep and their organs are gone. So I hopefully if there's a cat heaven, we'll be recognized there.
Yeah. But supposedly cat heaven is bird hell, so it's sort of like dog and squirrel hell. So it's very, very efficient.
There's never a winner all the way around. So
no, really not.
So yeah, that's kind of the story. That's kind of our whole cat apocalypse. It was a crazy time, and now that we're down to the last couple of survivors of that whole thing, it's kind of bittersweet, right, Doug?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah.
So do y'all sort of feel like, because there's pet owners that there's not really an in-between of, when the pet dies, because they're such a part of the family, there's not really an in-between with either I really feel a need to rescue another animal and I can't, justify, feeling like I'm replacing this previous pet. Is there a
we're
way
in the midst
place?
we're in the midst of that right now, like my husband and I, where we have our one sweet girl left, and she's great, and she's been super healthy her whole life. Her decline has been really rapid, and only in the past months. So we're not far away from that decision, but I feel a little guilty saying that this is what heterosexuality must be like, right? When people are baby crazy, like I don't get it, weird, gross, but we keep sending each other pictures of kittens and cats and stuff, and I'm like, oh, we can't yet. We have to let this old girl kind of have her, sunset all by herself without some random thing coming into the house and changing up the whole dynamic. But I'm sure we're going to end up with at least a couple more after she's gone.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard thing to have to think about. And that's something that I'm sort of thinking about too. It's like, what do I want to do? And I know whenever I went in to adopt Gypsy Rose, I knew I wanted a cat that was already an adult, that probably had been there for a while. Because I think there's a lot of the adult cats where it's like, oh, I really want a cute little kitten and da-da-da. But I was like, I really want to have an adult cat, like I want to rescue, basically, that was either given up or that an owner passed away or something. And I don't remember the story with her previous owner, but I went in there and I was like, no, I have to have a cat that's been overlooked.
Yeah, that's how we're talking about our next, the next ones we kind of find is, I think I don't know the stats exactly, but I have anecdotal evidence that kittens move pretty quickly, that they find homes really easily. And so I would love to find maybe a pair of maybe 3-4-year-old cats that for whatever terrible or sad reason have to be surrendered and are, scared and need a safe, stable place to be. And I think that's kind of what we're thinking as well. It's,
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think of it necessarily as replacing anything, because every one of those ones that I ended up keeping, and even the ones that we, helped find homes for, and even the ones that tried to kill us, they're all memories that I love. And when my last 2 of my 5 pass, and I'm one of them, the one I was talking about, I want to, like Mark said, I want to let her have her swan song in peace. But I have the resources. I love cats. And I have the resources to have a couple have a really good life. And so, once that scenario presents itself again, I think it's, I need to do that to try and minimize a little bit of the misery in the world. It's not much, but it's something. And selfishly, I think with, during quarantine without these 2 cats, I definitely wouldn't have made it. I would not have survived.
Yeah. And anyone who has cats knows that there is a randomness to having a cat that is kind of endlessly fun. They're just such peculiar beasts, and they just get up to whatever they're getting up to, and it makes life, just takes the edge off, I guess. So
really does. Yeah. I feel like I say weird ass cat more often than any phrase that I utter in my whole entire life. Yeah. So Don, Uncle Mark, if you lived closer, I'd be willing to part with our 2 cats.
You're done, huh, Don? That's like, you're done with them.
That's funny. I think Don, I'm wanting to say had they just got like a puppy or something. I don't know, but he'll send me pictures of the dog every once in a while, and I'm just like, I love your dog so much.
Nice.
Can't help it. Love it. So if anybody in your audience has any questions or anything, just feel free to shout them out in the chat. I feel like we've gone over quite a bit about.
I think we've covered cats. Yeah, I mean, for cat ladies, we should be able to go on much longer, but I think we've wrapped it up with cat talk.
Yeah. Well, are there any particular organizations that y'all want to give a special shout out to, that are like rescues that you particularly love? Because I know you shouted out the one vet earlier. Are there any particular rescue organizations that y'all really, really like?
Well, I think the Humane Society does really good work, and they're
Mhm.
always hurting for funds. And then there's a local one here called Best Friends Animal Sanctuary.
Mhm.
They're going national, and they're affiliated with a lot of other organizations, but they also take not just they deal with cats and dogs, but
Take anything.
they take birds, they take
Exotic animals, they take-
horses,
yeah.
exotic animals, big cats. They'll take anything, and they have a sanctuary in southern Utah where they manage those populations. So they're
And
really
they're
good
no kill.
people.
They're like
they're
a no
no-kill.
kill situation. Yeah.
Good.
So
Yeah.
they're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then are they affiliated with No More Homeless Pets in Utah?
Yeah,
Doug?
yes. So No More Homeless Pets in Utah, and many states have a No More Homeless Pets organization. Best Friends and No More Homeless Pets are affiliated, so they're all doing really, really good work.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah. If you'll ever, get in touch with anybody in Oregon, it's like I'm very curious as to find a really good cat rescue.
I'm sorry, I can't help but mention the ASPCA as well. So that's
Oh
that's
yeah,
awesome.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much anything that it really is the stuff that you think of when you think of, stray, homeless pets, ASPCA and Humane Society and stuff are definitely ones that,
Right.
you really want to make sure that you
Yeah.
support. Yeah. And the place I got my cat from, it's a place called the Cattery, which is
Nice.
very cute little name. We'd looked at some cats when we lived in Dallas Fort Worth. We'd looked at some cats, and Nathaniel and I, we're like, do we want to adopt another cat? I don't know. She's a loner, so I don't know how well she would respond to
Yeah, it's funny, the dynamics. It's just really hard to say. But I had a vet tell me a little while ago, because a friend of mine was looking to adopt just a single cat. And my hunch was, well, why don't you see if you can get two, like siblings or two that have been together or whatever. And, some people get cats that they might have 2 or 3 cats and maybe they hate each other and their whole lives they just hate each other. But the vet said to me, it's always get more than one cat, because even if they hate each other, it gives them something to think about. And it gives them a focus. And it keeps there's some more occupation than just being alone in an apartment or a house all day, right?
Yeah. What sort of broke my heart, we had another cat. My ex-husband and I were the ones who adopted Gypsy Rose, and we had another cat named Winston, who's a little tuxedo cat. He was like the runt of the litter, so he never really grew out of the kitten size and stuff. When I moved back with my mom, she already had 3 cats. So there were 5 cats in our house, which was like, when I turned about 16, we already had 3 cats. My dad hated cats. So after he passed away,
it was just booing your dead dad. That's awesome, Mark.
No, it's fine.
How do I hang this thing up?
He had his issues, and not being a cat lover was one of them. So, and my mom,
that's a deal breaker for me. That's a deal breaker.
Right? Yeah. The fact that Nathaniel had the corgis was a big reason why I was like, I like you and I really love your corgis. So I think I dig you. I think I do.
Yeah.
But we pretty much had always had cats around from the time I was about 15 or 16. And when I moved back with my mom, she had her 3 cats and everything. And I was recently in touch with her, actually, a mild tangent. I was recently in touch with her, and she was like, so I had a couple of cats dropped off that made their way into my backyard. Oh, wow. So I just sort of kept them. And I'm just like,
it happens.
This makes total sense. This is
happens.
Absolutely logical. I get it. I get it. So we do have one question from Tapioca Weasel. What is your opinion of PETA?
So here's the thing: is I'm aware of the noise going on a little bit about PETA, but I just, because my life is busy in other ways, I haven't really paid attention to it. Doug, do you have any more information than me?
No, I have a good opinion of PETA. The tactics of throwing red paint and stuff like that are And I know that's not the encompassing all of PETA, and that's not all that PETA does. But I think any organization that's trying to make the world a better place, which I believe PETA certainly is doing, is on the right side of history.
Mhm.
So
what is there's some like I just kind of see these snippets. There's some controversy about them like killing animals as well. Like
I have heard of that.
I don't know what that is, like destroying and burning a mink farm or something. Or
I don't know. I genuinely am not sure.
yeah,
Because you hear these little rumors and stuff. You hear like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what PETA does. This is what PETA does. They're actually, destructive and whatever. But I'm just like, I get what they're going for.
Yeah,
Because
and they do a lot of. They're very activists, so they do a lot of trying to expose industrial farming, the mistreatment of animals, in fashion, etc. So they've done quite a bit of good. I don't know about them doing anything like that, and so I'm definitely not an expert. I just know that there's been a lot of a lot of that legislation that is trying to, what is it, the ag gag legislation that prevents people from filming factory farms,
even from public space.
Even from public spaces.
Like,
a lot of states that have passed those laws because PETA and affiliated organizations have exposed the terrible things that they're doing.
Yeah.
So they've done things where they fly drones over them, or they spy on into the farms from trees and in neighboring lots, and they expose the terrible things that are happening in our food industry. So I have never put myself on the line like that, and to expose something like that. So I don't know anything about the bad stuff. I do know that they've done quite a bit of good. So
yeah.
I would say I don't know enough to really have to offer an opinion here. I mean, I think that in any kind of movement, there is in any kind of social justice movement, there is a place for a radical fringe.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are often the ones that kind of move the conversation. But I don't know quite enough about PETA to really say one way or the other.
I would say and this may be the only thing I can say that I know about them, is you can judge somebody by the enemies they make, and they've made enemies of Republican legislatures from coast to coast. They got to be doing something right.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if the Republicans don't like you, then
you're on the right
I think
side.
You can sleep well at night. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's fine.
Yeah.
We have there's been a lot of activism and stuff. Again, tangents. There's been a lot of activism and stuff that Nathaniel and I have done in terms of like a lot of separation of church and state stuff. We've done stuff with sex ed. I've done a lot of stuff with reproductive justice. I was saying, before we started that I used to work for Planned Parenthood and everything. And it's funny how those who are either so apathetic or they're just sort of like, I'm against this, but I don't really know. When they're encountered with somebody who is like, no, like you've got to care about this stuff, that sort of seems to, especially if they're like, well, I'm against this, but I'm not really meh. That tends to make them sort of go, in the total opposite direction.
Mm.
Like, and I don't know if that's just something that I've noticed with specific, and I guess it's specifically with reproductive justice stuff, because it, has to a lot to do with pro-choice stuff and things of that nature. But I don't know stuff like that, and it's just like people go just bonkers. It's insane.
Yeah, well, as we're seeing in the current, social justice struggle in this country, there are people who very plainly think that property destruction is a far worse crime than the taking or severely damaging of a human life, right? And so I think, I think PETA or some similar kind of activists have kind of destroyed property and stuff like that. And there is a mindset among people that is just, you just can't do that. That is just beyond the pale, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, unless it's for the cause that they believe in, right? And then, then they're a little squishy on that. But if, it does seem strange that apathy is the enemy, or apathy is the friend of all terrible things, right? And so if you're more freaked out and angry at Antifa than you are at the underlying, social injustice in our country, something's gone wrong. I don't know what it is, but like somewhere you went down the wrong fork in the road. You know what I mean? And I mean,
need
Antifa
to walk back to the fork and take the other one because
Antifa stands for anti-fascist.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if Antifa is
if you're fighting Antifa, what does that say about you?
Yeah.
And I think PETA hits the same chords in a lot of people. And same with Planned Parenthood, right? When people take their beliefs and take those beliefs to the streets, the people who I think are unwilling to get up off their couches for whatever cause, I don't know if it makes them jealous or uncomfortable or insecure, but something happens, right? And it tends to be that if you're in PETA, you're probably pro-choice, and if you're in Antifa, you're probably pro-environment. You know what I mean? Like these things dovetail pretty well, but they do motivate, like you, Susan, and other people to go to the street. Like we want the world to be a better place, and no one's going to do it but us. And so I'm going to go march into pepper spray to try and do that. And that's amazing.
Yeah. And living in Portland, where there's been protests for 100+ days.
Yeah. The forest fires and the smoke must be a cheerful diversion from all the tear gassing and the kidnapping, right? That's got to be kind of a gay affair.
It's definitely a change of pace for sure. It's
Yeah.
But
what is happening?
we had gone downtown. This was month and a half ago. We went downtown. It was probably about 9 o'clock in the evening, and people were, there was nothing violent happening. There wasn't anybody, being any of the shit that we've been basically, stereotyped as.
Right.
And, there was a couple of people on speaker that were just like a couple of black men that were like, just fucking stop killing us. And, that was the extent of it, really.
Yeah.
But, there's this stereotype that Portland has turned into basically this war zone, and it's like,
well, it's a lie, and it's a lie to help somebody's election chances. But
but remember, Portland and Seattle have always been punching bags for the right because they're liberal cities. San Francisco, they're liberal cities and liberal states. So anytime you can showcase how it's not working, this experiment is failing, it's always been thus. And so, there have been protests in many, many towns in this country, but for some reason, the president and his acolytes have focused all their ire and attention on, not for some reason, because it fits their narrative so well, onto Seattle and
Portland and Chicago and
Portland. And it's not surprising. I mean, the World Trade protests back in the early 2000s, and Seattle and Portland have always just been punching bags. So, but again, you're defined by the enemies you make. So well done.
I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that.
Yeah.
My Twitter is mostly just sort of like pictures of cute things and stuff about our shows and things of that nature. But with Nathaniel and I both tweet from the Divine Disbelief account, and he'll sort of get into a lot more political debates than I do, because he is far more adept at that sort of thing. I can sit there and listen and be just all like, okay, you're full of shit and you're full of shit. I can tell that, I like what you're saying, and I can tell that sort of thing. I just can't actually do the debate part. But there's a lot of people that will get into discussions with Nathaniel on the Divine Disbelief Twitter, and they'll block us because they're just like, you're a horrible person because you support BLM and because you protest and because you value human life and shit like that, people over property sort of thing.
Yeah.
I am okay with those people blocking us because
you don't know them a conversation. You don't know them.
Yeah.
If they literally, if they do not value human life over property, like you're saying, and they don't support like the most basic, obviously, a problem that needs solving in this country, which is the way that our armed police forces treat certain people in this country. If they can't support that, then I don't think you owe them a conversation at all. I mean, I don't know how many people who don't support Black Lives Matter, who think that that it's either not a problem or that Black people deserve whatever is being dished to them this way. I don't know if you're ever going to change that mind. That's a poisoned mind, and I don't know if it's
I know we're veering a bit, but let's veer away. In the Woodward recordings that we just heard, Donald Trump said, Woodward was saying, do you feel like we need to exercise our privilege or try and understand the lives of other people, Black people? And Trump's response was, boy, you've really drunk the Kool-Aid. Listen to you. No, I don't believe there are disparities at all. I think
I don't have to do that.
I think there are lots of people in this country, and so that, when they're confronted with Black Lives Matter, they do not believe it. They don't believe that Black people have it worse or different, and they don't believe the playing field is unlevel. And that
there are people who believe they have it better.
Yeah,
right. And you see them in social media all the time, going, "Well, I didn't get into school with affirmative action. Well, I didn't get any sort of housing assistance." Or it's like, yeah, because you're a rich white motherfucker and you didn't need it, and the system was built for you. Right?
Yeah, you were already born up here.
You're born at third, asshole.
Yeah, and you thought you hit a triple.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah,
I was born at second, and I struck out. I don't know sports. Does that even make sense? I don't even know. I don't follow lacrosse, so I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah,
it's like. Sort of. I mean, baseball's like the one thing that I sort of pay attention to. So
okay, good.
Yeah,
we can talk about that for an hour if you want, and I'll just fake it.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally fine. I can probably make do with talking about. I don't even know what else.
But I don't know that those minds are changeable in those conversations. Like I tend not to. I'm the How-To Heretic Twitter guy, and I tend not to debate. Really, it's just like I'm not gonna feed the trolls, and I'm not gonna give them that kind of oxygen.
Yeah,
it's bullshit. And
well, I mean, there's so many. There are 99 times out of 100, it just ends up in a flame war, and so I don't know if it's worth it. But there are the very few examples of people. Fred Phelps' daughter, for example, who actually. It was Twitter and Facebook that got her out because she started having discussions on those forums. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, it just and I've fallen for it more times than I'd care to remember. Where somebody makes some shitty comment and I'm like, yeah, well, fuck you, and that's it.
Right? Yeah. No, fuck you. No, fuck you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Super productive. I've had enough of that in my life. I don't need more.
Yeah, I'm just not. I'm not adept at it. I don't have the patience, and so the people who have the patience to be able to engage in those sort of discussions and those sort of debates, that is something that is truly so far ahead of me. I just can't do it.
Yeah,
just can't. There was something I was gonna say. What the hell was I going to say?
We were going to ask where to send the money.
Right when we're done. I'll think of it right exactly.
Okay. I'm sure we were going to talk about the Dune trailer. I'm sure that's what we were here to talk about, right?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, no.
That's not my nerd. My nerd is Star Wars.
How do I unplug?
So you can't quite see it. I mean, if I do like that, you can sort of see. This entire wall right here is Star Wars Funko Pops.
Ah, nice.
Like
That's your retirement account there. That's your savings.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to admit something. I don't know what a Funko Pop is.
So let me
You
show
know what it is when you see it. They're really cute.
It's these little guys. Princess
Oh,
Leia.
cute. Okay,
Yeah.
definitely. All right. I didn't know that's what they were called.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do have, going back to the original topic, which I'm so sorry that I missed this, Don. Uncles and Susan, favorite cat varieties?
Oh, all of them.
Oh,
All of them.
all of mine were such runts and mutts.
Defects.
I don't
They
even
were
know.
factory defects. And
Yeah, I
blemish.
don't even know what they were. I've got the two I have left, a little black minxie like cat and a tortoise shell, but I had a ragdoll kind of hybrid and
the badger.
The badger.
Yeah.
And then I had a jet black, straight alley cat looking thing.
Mhm.
So I don't even know, to be honest, I know tabby and tortoise. I don't even know the names of the varieties of
the one that was kind of closest to my heart that I just lost a few months ago, Mama. She was a gray tabby, like a long-haired gray tabby, and she just was a little plump thing with a little tummy, and I probably should never get another gray tabby because that cat will always live in the shadow of this, one of the defining loves of my life.
Yeah.
And that crazy story about the woman who she kidnapped a missionary. Remember that in England as like a sex slave years ago, and then it turns out she popped up in the news again because she had her dogs cloned by some crazy Korean like fringe doctor, her pit bull or something, and then the clone attacked her and nearly took her arm off. And
oh my God.
Cautionary tale. Like just start over with something
clone
new.
Pets.
Don't clone pets or people or bury them in pet cemeteries. People. I saw a documentary about that.
Look who it is. This is that's Sweetie. Hello.
That's little Sweetie.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm obligatory wake her up from her slumber.
Oh,
Hello.
Little sweet.
Hello.
I don't know where my girl is. I think she's out taking a sun bath right now, which is good. So we'll let her do that. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her. So it's as funny as it sounds, even though, Gypsy's a domestic short hair tabby. I really love the super floofy cats.
Mm-hmm.
Like the super floofs. And then I love the naked cats, the sphinxes.
Oh,
I've
really?
never met one of those in person, and I don't know how I would react. It's a very strange look, but I'm sure they're just like regular cats otherwise, right?
Yeah, they feel funny. And then you have to like dress them up in little sweaters and stuff because they'll get cold. They don't have the coats and stuff.
They look pissed off all the time is kind of how they look to me. They have this very intense kind of face going on, but
I feel like most cats do.
Yeah.
There's a subreddit I'm part of called Grumpy Cats.
Oh yeah.
Which is a lot of fun.
Cute.
That would be great.
What's the breed of cat that's got kind of the flat face? Well, you know what I'm talking about?
Is that a Himalayan? Like I think it might be a Himalayan. Like a really, really flat face.
Yeah, like the nose is kind of. They're pretty cute.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I'd have a problem falling in love with any sort of cat. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm not a cat racist. So I'm just I'm putting it out there.
Not catist. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not catist.
We do have one other question. Being cat lovers, what is your opinion of pet rat owners or pet rats in general? Have y'all been
Whatever
around?
Floats your boat.
Whatever floats your boat. I have never met a pet rat, I don't think, but I've met pet ferrets and weasels and snakes and lizards, and I'm like, I love cats particularly, but I'm an animal lover generally. I love dogs. I can't have a dog, like just the way my work life works out. We just can't do that. But I love them all. I used to be really afraid of bats until I saw people. I don't know why, childhood fear, maybe, when my parents were killed outside that theater that night, and it kind of traumatized me. And then the cave under the mat. No, I used to be really afraid of bats until I saw people kind of handling them on, videos and like their little faces and stuff. And like it just completely completely dispelled my fear of them. So
I think is as long as you're doing you're treating it well whatever.
Yeah.
I did have we do have a common friend though that kind of got he was a reptile owner.
I think friend is a pretty generous spin.
Acquaintance.
Yeah. He went some spin on that.
He went a little too far. He had iguanas and geckos and snakes and all kinds of exotic lizards. And he had so many that breeding the mealworms and the crickets, or purchasing mealworms and crickets, became an expense. So he started breeding his own mealworms and his own crickets.
Yeah,
and he
was the Jewish Joe Exotic of Salt Lake City.
He had these styrofoam containers under his bed with cocoons full of bugs in them.
I almost became the Carol Baskin of that
totally.
Situation. Yeah,
they was incubating these cocoons under his bed. And I would go to his house, and every once in a while, I'm like, okay, this is somewhere in the basement. There's a woman in a well, putting lotion on its skin. Right.
The crickets had escaped, and his house was just full of crickets. And reptiles are wonderful, but there is a certain smell that comes along with having more than your own body weight of reptiles in your house. And
that I think maybe don't go off the deep end, but if you want a gecko, have a gecko. Want a rat? Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. Again, there was something I was going to say, and then I completely forget. One of my old roommate that lived with me and my mom. She had a pet rat that she had, I think, up until fairly recently, and she it got out one day. Oh, I remember the other thing I was going to say. It had gotten out, and I was trying to get it back, and the rat, I guess, got scared and totally just bit the crap out of my hand, and I'm just all like, all right, you're lucky you're cute. Not gonna party ever again. That was a bad idea. One of this guy I dated for a very short period of time when I still lived back home in Corpus Christi had pet hissing cockroaches.
Oh, okay.
That was weird. That was really weird. And I'm like, y'all, I'm just all like, cats, but other animals, yes, cool. The hissing cockroaches was just like, this is too weird for me. I can't.
I'm kind of like, all I really ask of my pets is some sort of kind of affectionate response to the life I provide for them. And I don't know that I don't know hissing cockroaches, but I don't know that's something they're capable of or interested in, so I'm not going to cuddle up in bed and read a book with my hissing cockroach or my, Javanese scorpion probably. So, but if you people like insects. And so I guess if you treat them well, and we can talk about Doug's love of spiders.
Yeah.
His famous love of spiders that Eli Bosnick has. One of these days, Eli is going to prank you so hard.
I don't think people fully understand that the how much you're poking a bear when you fuck with somebody's arachnophobia. You know what I mean? People throw a little plastic spider at me, and I take out vengeance for the rest of my life upon them.
We nearly lost our lives we were driving from Toronto to Niagara Falls when Doug came to visit me in Toronto. I was on a job, and it was rainy and wet and shitty. And Doug's driving in the rental car at 12 million, I don't know, kilometers. It's 100 trillion kilometers per meters, whatever, how the fuck that works. So we're driving along very fast on the Queen Elizabeth Expressway, and I'm in the passenger seat, and Doug just starts fucking screaming. He's just screaming, and the car just starts hydroplaning all over the place. And I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And it turns out a spider the size of a sesame seed. No,
couple things. It was more than one.
Story before.
It was many, but some sesame seed sized spiders somehow ended up on his hand. Oh. They'd hatched in the vents or something and got onto his hand.
Yes.
And we all nearly died as a result of something that didn't even weigh an ounce.
Those of you who are watching and have a fear of spiders know exactly how much of a nightmare it is to see spiders start coming out of the vent of your car. And the fact that I just didn't veer into oncoming traffic.
I've seen worse.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Uncle Mark.
Yeah.
And so the last, I think it was the last movie we guest hosted, the Gamcast, the God Awful Movies, was this horrible Mormon missionary movie called One Man's Treasure. Don't watch the movie. Listen to our episode about it. But there's this shot of a tarantula in it, and I could hear Doug shitting his pants from my house. Like, for no reason, there's a tarantula in this movie.
It doesn't further the plot. It doesn't, and it never gets remarked on again, which was the most alarming thing.
Gratuitous tarantula is a condition Doug has, yeah, as a result of that. So there you go.
Oh my gosh, that is like, what is the point in that? I don't know. Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're at about an hour. What do y'all have coming up? Where can we find you? And what do y'all have any last words or anything?
Well, what we have coming up hopefully is a vaccine and some sort of fair election. Other than that, we are having our 3-year anniversary show, which is on the 27th.
It's a Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday the 27th. Yeah. So that's our 3-year anniversary, which is crazy. We can't believe that's happening.
It's amazing.
And then, we're hopefully, when this shit is over, I think we've all been cooped up enough. We'd love to try to get out into the world and do some like in-person meetups, IRL as the kids say.
Yeah.
And meet some people and press the flesh, and hopefully be back at American Atheists when that happens again. So, yeah. And if you want to find us, our website is howtoheretic.com. We're the How-To Heretic on all the pod blasters, and I'm at How-To Heretic on Twitter.
Awesome. I love it.
Vote, everybody. Vote.
Yes,
for God's
please.
sakes, everybody vote.
Yeah, and vote twice. Apparently you can do that. That's a fine thing.
I mean,
that's a fine thing to do.
Trump says you can, so you might as well.
He's the president.
Try,
right? He's the president. So there you go.
Do y'all have any last words? Any last thoughts?
Douglas?
No, just if you don't have a pet in your life, you definitely should rectify that. Whatever it is, from your screaming cockroaches to your cats, ossifrages,
ocelots, anything with
lesser and greater owls, whatever it is.
Any O-based animal is a good one to have. So get a pet. It'll change your life. It'll make things a lot better.
Oh yeah. Agreed.
Well, Susan, thanks so much for having us on.
Thank y'all so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. And thank everybody in the chat for joining us as well. We would not really be able to do much of a show without y'all. Wouldn't have been able to do this show without you two, Mark and Doug. I really appreciate you guys.
Anytime.
And y'all have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Bye,
you
guys.
too.